Do you want to know every step it took to make this animated visualizer for Larry June and the Alchemist?
These niggas still worry about me, man. It's a goddamn shame, man.
Because if so, you're in the wrong place. Sometimes I forget to record steps, but I figured it'd still be fun to record my progress on this. I do want to make one note: if anybody has watched the carnival videos, it's still in the back of my mind. I will get to it at some point. None of that. I can't even speak. None of the. I can't even say that word. Nonetheless, that just sounds wrong when I say it like that. I feel like it's supposed to be like none of the less. That doesn't even make any more sense. Anyways, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be starting with making legendary producer and creative in general, Alchemist, the Alchemist. As you can see in the background or on a previous clip, I have already made Larry June. I did not record that process because initially I was not intending on making videos for this, but I figured I'd try it anyways. And in the future, I'm gonna be making some like live commentary, I guess, while I work on these, just to get my thought process as I work on some of these pieces. But anyways, back to the Alchemist. Today we're gonna be making a cartoon version of him, and one thing that I always do when I get started is try to find reference images. Now this can be kind of difficult because sometimes a lot of people don't have like a straight front profile picture or like even a mugshot or side profile pictures. Like you can never find one or the other like exactly that line up, so it can be a little tough. The nice thing about making cartoon characters is you can kind of get away with it not looking exactly like them. Back to the reference images real quick. Some funny stuff can happen when you're looking for reference images. Example A. Now, Alchemist, one day I'm going to ask you the story, the origin story behind this picture. I don't know if you have anything involved with it or not, but it's pretty funny. These reference images are important, I think, because although if you're making cartoon characters, you don't need it to be exactly lined up perfectly, it does help to get like proportions correct, like where eyes are going to be, the eyes to the nose, how wide eyes are going to be, eyes to mouth, just to get it to look a little bit, you know, more like who you're trying to recreate. Alrighty, so just to recap what's going on here, I know I've just been rambling. For these cartoon characters, I generally always bring in a cube, just a normal cube, and then add a subdivision surface to it. So I use the shortcut Control-2 on the cube, and it'll give us, you know, a sphere, a low poly sphere. And then I delete half just so we get a nice mirror going on. And so for these cartoon characters, I like to keep the vertice count as low as possible. This kind of varies and it's going to depend on you guys personally. If you guys want to make really detailed models and stuff, you're going to need that vertice count up generally, just so you can make some more like nooks and crannies and stuff. But again, these aren't supposed to be super detailed, so you can keep them pretty low poly. I also wanted to make a note. I know I can bring more reference images in, not only like this main viewpoint like I have already going on here, but I can bring in another side window. I've done that before with other projects. It just makes the windows kind of too small for me. I kind of like the one big main window that I'm working on to not be like squished. Sometimes when I go into the shader editor, obviously I do that, but when I'm working in the main like layout viewport, I keep it as clean as possible. I also think it's nice to switch between reference images, especially going back, like I was saying, if you can't find one or two good ones, bouncing between a bunch of different ones is going to give you different looks. That could also be a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but for someone like me who kind of just needs to see different angles on things, it helps me, like, it really helped me define Alchemist's chin on this one. As you can see, I pull up on Google Images, like an image where he's kind of like this or something like that. His head's like tilted down, and that really helped me kind of define that he has like a more defined chin. So kind of small things like that. I know it's probably not the best, most efficient. I don't really care because it works for me. All right, so at this point, I was pretty happy with the overall like shape of the head that I had. So at this point, I was pretty happy with the shape that I had going with Alchemist's head. It was time to kind of move on to some more details like the nose, mouth, and eyes. And pretty much this is just kind of pulling around vertices. As for the nose, up in edit mode, I go into like the plane select and then extrude, or face select, excuse me, not plane, and extrude out a few times just to give us those extra like vertices and stuff for the nose. And I do the opposite for the eyes to give like an eye socket. Again, this is where the side reference comes in, because from just a front reference, you're not going to be able to tell how far like a nose goes out or like where the nose tip lines up with the lips or not. Anyways, talked a lot about references. As I've pretty much just been rambling about vertices, a cartoon head, and reference images, I do want to say that The Alchemist and Larry June's new album is out. It's called The Great Escape. It's got some fire tracks on there. Honestly, I like going on drives. I've been going on drives recently, like sunset drives. And this album from start to finish on just a nice drive down the coast, fantastic. So I actually made this before the album came out, and they released 2 tracks called 89 Earthquake and 60 Days. I've known about Larry June for a while now. I saw Larry June actually perform ever before I'd even heard of him. I saw him at Rolling Loud 2017, 18 maybe, in the Bay. And basically my introduction to him was this rapper on stage that was throwing orange juice into the stands, or not stands, into the crowd. I was like, what the heck, bro? Like, this guy's throwing out orange juice? And immediately I was like, this guy's actually a genius. Once I found out that it was like his orange juice, so not only is he a rapper, an artist and creative, he's also an entrepreneur and businessman. When I heard 60 Days first. I was kind of in a music drought. I listened to a lot of different music, but lately it had been kind of repeating. Lately I've been kind of repeating what I've been listening to. And so when this track popped up actually on my YouTube feed, I was like, huh, actually I haven't heard any Larry June music in a while. So I click on it, and the beat from 60 Days again was just so refreshing. So different to what I've been listening to in that time frame, and just in general. And the music video, super fire. I love watching music videos. Sometimes I don't even care if I like the music or not, but I like to study kind of music videos and stuff. Instantly, I just had this like new wave and like vibe that I had going. I was kind of, like I said, in it, not only just a dead music area, but just kind of, I mentioned earlier in the video, the carnival videos. I'd worked on that a lot, and I put a lot of time in for honestly just a short period of time. I'm not even gonna try to beat around the bush on that, but it was a lot for me at that time. Like, I was all in for like, I think like 2 weeks or something, and then I just got super burnt out, and I took a couple of days off working on Blender. I was working on like editing some other stuff for some people, and when I heard this track, I was like, I gotta like make something. I gotta make something for this, because I'm really vibing to this and I want to create to this. It's kind of like what I used to do with my old Call of Duty edits. If you guys scroll way back through my old videos, I have like edits from like my Warzone highlights of the week. They weren't even like necessarily good highlights, but it would just be like the best clips I could get from that week to the song that I was listening to like crazy that week. So there's like Vamp Anthem when a whole lot of red dropped and stuff. So getting kind of off topic here, but I just wanted to say that this album is amazing, and it kind of resparked and rejuvenated, put that battery back in to my creative mind. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with things at this point. What's up, Nico? Special guest appearance. You making biscuits? Anyways, at this point, I was very happy with the overall head shape, and I got all the facial features that I wanted to get on there, besides the facial hair that's going to come shortly. The next step was to add in, I have a skin BSDF. Oh gosh, I'm downstairs, not next to my computer. I don't remember which one it is. One of those things. I'll put a screenshot of the tree in case anyone wants to copy it. Basically, it's a procedural kind of like cartoon skin shader. You can turn up like a sweat thing. It's basically like roughness, so it makes them look sweatier, or you can turn it down so it doesn't have as much kind of like a glossy look to it. You can turn like the subsurface up and down. I honestly don't remember where I found it, but if I can figure out where I found it, because it's been a while, I will link it in the description below. But it's also good because it has like different like secondary colors and stuff. So I also use this for some of my alien characters that I've made in previous videos, because you can make some like weird color combinations and stuff. After selecting the skin color, we just went ahead and added that also to the eyelids and ears. To save a little bit of time, I just used the same body that I made, and armature as well, that I made with the Larry June character. I believe in some of my previous videos, I've shown me making the armatures and stuff like that. But honestly, I'll link a great video down below if anyone wants to learn how to make armatures and stuff like that for their characters. My man Joey Carlino taught me pretty much everything I've learned on Blender, and he keeps putting out great content, and it's a great learning hub. So I'll link that video in the description below if anyone needs to learn how to rig up an armature. Something about armatures, you can use Mixamo without even having to set up an armature. You just make your model and then upload it. I've done it a few times with my character Kevin. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's so useful and saves a ton of time. Like, don't get me wrong, being able to just take the animations that they have set up there, be able to just upload your character, and boom, you can have your character dancing, all that stuff. It's amazing. I love it, but maybe I don't love it. I really like it, but something about it, and I think it's just kind of like a personal problem-ish sort of thing, is it doesn't feel like as satisfying. Like, it helps me get my projects done sooner, and like I like the end result. But something I realize is I liked my walk cycle from like my mushroom video. If you guys have seen that one before, I'll put a little clip right here. I like my walk cycle in that a lot better than the Mixamo one, even though it sucks compared to the Mixamo one. It just feels like because I did it. So that's how I feel about that. I'll go back and forth, but that's just how I feel about it right now. I could honestly say the same thing about using like the models of the Ferrari, and it would honestly take me like 67 years just to model like this Ferrari, let alone the Ferrari and the Benz and the yacht and the Golden Gate Bridge in this, along with the characters. So it's kind of a give or take thing. I would not knock anybody for using Mixamo or anything like that. I forget who it was, but it was somebody who worked in Star Wars. I watched an interview recently, and he was like talking about how a lot of people his age, because he was an older gentleman in the industry, that kind of resent people using like pre-made models. But his personal take was kind of like, you know, the resources are out there. Anything to save time saves time. So that's kind of the other end of the Mixamo kind of ordeal. It does save time, but I don't know, something about it, like I said, just doesn't satisfy me. Making all these different models of the cars and stuff like that, it would just take too long. So that's where I've been the knee on that one. I use Blender Kit, and like I've used, I think, Skillshare, a bunch of different websites just to get different models. You can find free ones. Sometimes free ones are better than the paid ones. Often not, but you can find them. Moving on to the hair emitter section of this video, it was time to put like facial hair as well as normal hair on the Alchemist. Now, I'm still like really new to the hair emitter. I'm not trying to make excuses, because I am learning, and I've been watching more tutorials about it. The problem is, like, every time I learn about it, new Blender update, and there's like 20 new things, so it always kind of screws me up, but it's also really sick at the same time. Double-edged sword for sure. The idea for Alchemist is he kind of has like a skin fade, I think it's called. All the barbers out there, sorry. That goes down to his beard. It's like a little bit lighter to the more thick portion of the side of his face or jaw. So that's kind of what I was going with. I had the mirror modifier on, and eventually went into like the combing editor, I guess. I forget what it's actually called, sorry. Erased around where there wouldn't be any hair. Obviously inside the mouth, around the eyes, keep the eyebrows in, all that stuff. Clear the cheeks up. Pause. Anyways, and so yeah, the hair, like I was saying, the hair emitter is still very new to me, and I'm learning about it, but I don't know, it's kind of fun to play with, and it really brings like your models to life, or your characters to life. At this point, our model is complete, or at least our base model. So it's time for the fun part where we get to like dress them up in cool outfits and stuff, whatever we want to make. I was watching an interview with the Alchemist. He was wearing like yellow flannel and some like jeans and some Vans. And then also in the 60 Days music video, he's wearing like these gold framed glasses and a hat. So that was kind of like the fit I was going for, combining those two different fits, I guess, or parts from each fit into what I created here. I mentioned earlier like a few of the websites I use, like I mentioned Skillshare. I actually don't I actually don't use Skillshare, it's Sketchfab. And I was going to buy a hat off there, and then I remembered that I had made a hat previously from a different project. So one thing I love about Blender is being able to reuse different things at convenience. Much like the skin BSDF, yeah, I think I said it right this time, which were the glasses, not only the gold frames for Alchemist, but also the Ray-Bans for Larry June. I also picked up the Vans. I made the Louis Vuitton Air Force Ones that Larry June is wearing in this animation. I actually have a video of me making that. You can go check that out. And again, this kind of goes back to, I didn't really feel like spending all that time making the Vans and all that other stuff, so just went ahead and bought them for pretty cheap. Actually, I actually really like Sketchfab because the models are very reasonably priced compared to a few different other websites. Like, anyways, we got started making this outfit for the Alchemist. Alrighty, so when making clothes in Blender, it can be kind of a pain, especially when like an armature is involved and like a body mesh, because sometimes it can clip through and it can just be super annoying. One quick tip that I learned that I did not show in this video is if you just duplicate your body mesh, like wherever the shirt would be, if it's already parented to the armature, then it's gonna match the movement like perfectly fine. It may not give like the best results if you're trying to do like a fabric simulation or something, or cloth simulation, but in general, the other way works. The problem with this one is I didn't realize that my mirror modifier on the body mesh was messed up, and I didn't realize until like way later. Basically, I had overlapping vertices, and it was causing the shirt to like have this weird seam, and I couldn't get rid of the seam. Everything I tried, and then I eventually figured out that was the problem, but it was way later and after I had already finished kind of the animation. So I kind of did this a little bit Jimmy rigged, where if you're having clipping issues, you can just delete the body mesh under if you're not really intending on using it. So for this one, I knew Alchemist was gonna have a long sleeve flannel, so I didn't really need all the vertices and stuff under the arm. I always save an extra body mesh just in case I come back and need it, but sometimes you don't need it, and then you don't really have to worry about like clipping issues. It may look a little funky sometimes, but it is what it is. It doesn't always have to be perfect. Alright, as we're coming to the end of this video, because we're nearing 20 minutes, I might make a part 2 with like the car stuff, but I think we might just keep this as like part 1 with the character. So to wrap this up, we moved on to the jeans. We brought in a cube. It kind of looked like underwear at first, or like a diaper, and then extruded the bottom vertices until we got kind of like that jean pant look. I ended up getting a jean texture off of either Polyhaven or Polygon.com. I also ended up finding a pair of Vans on Sketchfab for like $15, but I found the same pair on BlenderKit for free. So this is another example. Just check out different websites, and it's literally the exact same pair. So there's that little bit of information for you guys on that. I ended up attaching the Vans, or the shoes, the Vans, to the bone, the singular bone on the foot of the armature, rather than automatic weights, because the automatic weights just doesn't work for shoes. For me, I've just not had good experience with that. I always just pair it to the singular foot bone. I think I also got the flannel texture on Polyhaven or Polygon. It's one of those two. Those are my two go-to. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up this part of the video. We have our cartoon Alchemist, and I'll see if I decide to make the rest of the visualizer tutorial, or just kind of like my thoughts like we did on this one, not really a tutorial, or if I'm just gonna go straight into a clean slate and do like a live com like I mentioned on my next project. So stay tuned, a new video will be up soon. Thank you all for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.